Oh hi, welcome to my throne of thought. Throne of thought यानी कि एक ऐसी जगह जहाँ पे आप बैठ के अपने ख्यालों के साथ, अपनी थॉट्स के साथ समय बिता सकते हैं। आप अपना दिन प्लान कर सकते हैं, आप अपनी टू डू लिस्ट बना सकते हैं, आप अपनी पूरी लाइफ प्लान कर सकते हैं। And that is what I call doing epic shit. So let's talk about it today. So I'll be honest in telling you that this was not one of the books that I really looked forward to or I really planned to read. I thought it would be a summary of all the video scripts and the blog post, etc. And I would rather be reading something which is new, which is original. However, as soon as I opened the book on the very first page, I was blown away or touched rather by the honesty of the author. And it clearly said that this book may not be worth your time, but it is my honest and best effort. And I thought to myself that, yeah, okay, makes sense. So this guy generally speaks sensible things which are wisdomy and well thought, and if he's saying that this book might not be worth your time, there is no harm in flipping through a couple of pages, and if my day is lucky, I might find some take-home messages which would help me for the rest of my life. Flipping through a few pages, I found that it was very easy to read. There was not some central, deep, meaningful, counterintuitive, sub-meta concept that I had to master, because most of the time we are not really in that state of mind where we can do deep learning. Especially for me, the time to read is when I am sitting in the train or doing epic shit or waiting in the line or just watching something boring and I don't really have my mind on it. So I would open my phone or maybe on the iPad, or if the book is lying around just before sleeping, I would flip through a few pages, and I just want something which is easy to read, understand within a few minutes, and I don't really have to stress my brain so much. For the sake of the structure, I have divided this video the same way the book is divided into 5 or 6 chapters, I guess. So let's talk about success and failure. That is the first chapter, the first section of the book. My favorite line from this chapter is that hope is not a strategy. And it really hit me hard when I sat back and thought that most of the time we are just hoping for things to happen or wishing if this would happen in our life, then how wonderful it would be. But we never really take pen and paper and chalk out the strategy which is needed to achieve that hope or that wish. So this was one of the things that I'll remember for a while, for quite a long time. And whenever I hope or wish for something in my life, I would rather sit back and think that how can I reach there, and instead of just doing wishful thinking, I would do some wishful planning and strategizing. The next take-home message for me from this chapter was about listening to somebody without judgment. And these days, this is also a very rare thing to find. Generally, when you go with your problems to somebody, they are either judging you and trying to find some fault which is inherent to you and you have to fix it, or maybe they are just listening to give a story which is even more worse than what you already have, just to show that they have suffered a lot or their problem has been bigger than what you have suffered, and kind of try to belittle your problem. Or thirdly, they are providing some solution which may or may not be relevant, and you might not even want a solution. You just want somebody to hear your problem patiently and tell you that it will be fine. So if you can listen to somebody without judging them, it is you instantly give them something which not many people can. Being a doctor, I can personally attest this firsthand, because I see a lot of patients come into the clinic just to speak their heart out. They just feel good that there was somebody who listened to them, did not judge them, offered a solution only when asked, and felt like somebody was there in their team, somebody who was understanding them rather than giving them tags or finding faults. The third message from this chapter was that not everybody's definition of success is same as yours. I might want to be a hotshot billionaire, have fancy cars and private jets, but not everybody would want the same. On top of that, if you're in a position of leadership, if you're head of a team or a company where you have people looking up to you, taking instructions from you, depending on you to show the direction, it is completely your job to find out what makes your team tick and what is their definition of success. So next time, if you really wonder why your juniors are not working or why you're really struggling to make people understand what you want, you might want to ask them their definition of success and try to find out how different it is from yours. If you can find a ground which makes sense to them, which gives meaning to them, then maybe you can really get the best out of your team and eventually become a successful leader and a successful person. I sometimes really wonder that is it as simple as they make it sound, that you have to just change your mindset and you are just one decision away from a completely different life, which is the dream, the successful dream that you always imagined. Because generally we don't live in an isolated environment. It is not just our decisions that design our life, but also our interaction with our environment, which also designs our life. As smart as you may be, but if you're not in an environment which really encourages or identifies that smartness, you might always wonder looking at these motivational videos that I have all that it takes. In my head, I understand the value, but still things aren't working out. So I would really like to know Ankur Wariku's thought upon this if I ever get a chance to chat with him, that if it is only your mindset that decides your attitude and your altitude in life, then why not everybody is happy and chasing the life that they wanted? Because most of us these days have seen enough motivational videos on the internet and know what is the right mindset. However, not everybody is driving in a racing car and reaching the finishing line the way they wanted to. Be the guy who is identified as the person who can figure it out, rather than being this annoying, irritating person who has to be spoon-fed every small instruction. If you're a junior in a company, if you're an intern, if you're somebody who is on the job learning new things, try to pay attention to what is being done, be very observant, ask the right questions, and try to add or bring something on the table rather than pulling resources from the ones which you have been provided. If you can do one step extra than what he said and it is in the right direction, then you would be a guy who is valued compared to somebody who just is very irritating, annoying, and basically waiting for every instruction to move a finger and do whatever small thing which was obviously necessary and could have been done on your own with the help of common sense. Now, Ankur Wariku is a big fan of building new habits, and that is also something that I agree upon. If there is one thing you can judge a person by, it is by his habits, not by his words, not by his action, and definitely not by his Aadhaar card photo, but by his habits. So if there's one thing that you should keep learning lifelong, it is useful, productive, helpful habits. Let's take waking up early for an example. Most of us really struggle with waking up early in the morning. But there was one little anecdote in the book which said that sleeping early in the night is the secret to waking up early in the morning. And that made so much sense, because I personally have never had much of a problem with waking up early in the morning, but I have seen so many people who really struggle waking up early in the morning, and for the most part it is not a fault of theirs. But still, if you can fix your sleeping habit, you can sleep on time and get a nice 6 to 8 hours sleep in the night, you wake up fresh and energetic, then waking up in the morning is not just doable but also worthwhile. Many of us struggle with sleeping and late, and then after 3 or 4 hours we wake up and we are grumpy, we are disoriented, we are tired as soon as we wake up. This can also be detrimental to your health, let alone being of any help. So next time when you're trying to build good habits, try to find out what is that one little foundational thing that you have to do in order to make that happen. Some of the most important things that we use in our daily life are rarely taught at school. We have very high hopes from our school teaching, but the fact is that things like civic sense, people sense, common sense, a sense of humor, which are far more useful than the facts and theorems taught in school, have to be learned from your daily life. As soon as you realize that, you will see that every day, every moment, if you're observant enough, is a learning opportunity. If you live in the moment, if you live in the now, if you're mentally present in whatever you are doing, then that is like the secret sauce of positive results if you add some consistency with it. The point I'm trying to make is that the quality of your attendance is far more important than the quantity of your attendance. This was also one of my favorite take-home messages from this book. If you've reached the video this far and are already feeling bored, then I am feeling really happy for getting the opportunity to make you experience boredom. Boredom is one of my favorite things, and that is mainly because your brain gets some rest from the bombardment of inputs which we subject our brain to in today's day and time. Whenever we are feeling bored, our brain is actually processing and assimilating, organizing the information which was fed onto it and trying to come up with ideas, solutions, thoughts which we otherwise would not have really come up with if we were constantly browsing internet and watching Instagram reels and TikToks and whatnot. So boredom is something which should be encouraged. There should be some time, there should be a habit in your life where you allow yourself to get bored, and there is nothing wrong with it. Productivity, being useful, being productive, being alert and updated all the time doesn't mean that you don't give your brain any downtime. Embrace boredom and you would see your brain grow cognitively and creatively. So back in the day, it was said that you are known by the company you keep. You are average of the 5 people that you hang out with. In today's day and time, I believe it is not completely true. These days, we don't just hang out with people in person, but we also hang out with a lot of people online. Our source of learning and inspiration is not just the teachers or the people that we meet every day, but also the people that we follow on the Instagram or on the social media, on the internet, and the kind of books that we read. So if you have good quality ideas, good quality thoughts, or rather say good quality friends online and offline entering your brain, then overall the kind of person that you become is also of top-notch quality. So this was a roundup of all that I learned from the habits chapter of this book. Now let's move on to awareness. Now this thought is one of my favorites, that the secret to being undefeatable is to have fun while at it. So if you're really enjoying what you're doing, then results become secondary, goals become secondary. You don't really have to put an effort to do that thing, and once you enjoy things, you progressively get better at them because you enjoy the process and not the outcome. And such a person who is driven by the process is very difficult to beat. And these are the kind of stories that we hear, that there was X guy who was doing something, and after years you found out that he has become somebody big, and we start calling them overnight success. The secret of this overnight success is that if you really enjoy what you're doing, then at some point in time you will become better than the vast majority and you will reap the benefits of it. So if you have to choose an activity which you are doing, make sure that you are having fun while doing it, and let that be your guiding compass. If you're not having fun anymore, try to ask yourself, why am I not having fun? If you can fix that problem, then you can do it for even longer and enjoy the process. Having said that, I have just one word of caution. These days, whenever we say having fun, instantly we think about traveling every day and going to fancy places and clicking amazing pictures, having free gadgets, free food, traveling the world, and living the life which is perfect fit for Instagram stories. Ignoring the basics of earning money and standing on your own feet, gathering skills which are useful can only lead to disappointment. Become independent, learn how to earn money, get some skills which have real world value, and only then you can build upon to reach a life where you can afford to have fun and race your horses. Doing the right thing has many hidden benefits that the easy thing does not. How profound is that? We generally talk about hidden charges and hidden things that we are never told about. But if you follow the right path, then there are hidden surprises, the pleasant ones, which you may have never really expected, and they really give you an extra edge in your journey. It is like playing snakes and ladders. If you follow the right path, then you might surprisingly find a ladder which takes you directly to the finishing line. Don't choose the person from whom you want to learn, rather than choose what you want to learn from every other person that you meet. Now, this is an age-old anecdote, but it is more than ever relevant today. And that is because many a times we want to do something and we don't really know who will tell us how to do it. But if you look around, especially on the internet, or if you ask around your network, your contacts, your people, then you will find somebody who may not be a very good person to hang around with, but he knows a thing or two about what you wanted to know. If you're somebody who would not talk to that person, who would hesitate or refrain from talking to a person just because you don't like them, you might miss an opportunity of learning a thing or two from them. So focus on what you can learn from a person rather than how the person is and whether you like them or not, because we are looking for mentors. We are always looking for things to learn. We are students of lifelong learning, which means we have to maximize our opportunity to learn from books, from people, and not to judge them by their cover or their personality. Now, we see a lot of regret around us, but we rarely stop and think that what led to such a regret in a person's life or what made the person regretful. We often hear success stories of people around the world, but we rarely hear the stories of regrets of the common people around us. If we can learn from regrets and failures, then we are far more likely to avoid them rather than trying to copy somebody's success and for the most part being disappointed in our life. If you really want to be helped by somebody, make sure you make it easy for that person to help you. This is something which we never think about. We generally ask for help. We generally are sad that nobody wants to help us. But how often do we think that have we made it easy for the person to help us out? And we can do that by being more specific, by doing some deep thinking and finding out what exactly do I need help with, and trying to minimize the effort that is required for somebody to help us out. So next time if you're asking for help, ensure that you have a well thought question, you have a well thought idea, you have a well defined thing that you need help with, and for the most part if you present it to someone, you are more likely to get help than not. Now, I have not been much of an entrepreneur myself, but it was very interesting to see the way the mind of an entrepreneur or a businessman works. So the favorite take-home message from this section of the book was that if you are a business leader, if you are the team leader of an office, the manager of a couple of people, your job is to make sure that the team is motivated as much as possible. And for the most part, when we say the word motivation, we think about motivation camps and team building camps and speeches and quotes and posters and graffiti in the office and all of that. However, Ankur Warikoo says that what really matters is to create an environment where people would like to come every day. I remember back in the day, I used to really enjoy going to school, and this was because there I would meet my friends, there would be teachers that I would like, there would be activities that I would enjoy doing. Same way, if we can bring that back to our offices where people like to come every day, then we don't really have to spend any extra time in motivating and building a team. They would just show up over there, be thankful, be excited about every day, and give their best so that they can get more of what they are already getting. So the question now arises that who is a good employee? Is the good employee a person who matches his targets every time, or is it somebody that you can trust? Between these two, I would say that a trustworthy person is a better employee than somebody who manages to get the targets but you cannot trust him with his basic line of work. And lastly, I read in the book that good people pay a higher price for being good than bad people pay for being bad. Now this one really confused me. I didn't really understand it. So if you have a deeper insight on this, please let me know in the comments down below, and I would really hear the interpretation, the meaning of this quote. Thanks a lot. Now let's talk about money. The best money advice that I got from this book was that try to compare the methods by which people have generated wealth instead of just comparing how much money they have. Very often we just compare the net worth of two people and we wish that what if we would be this guy someday, but we rarely compare the methods by which they reached there and where do we stand and how can we adopt those methods into our own life. Sometimes we want to buy an expensive thing and we just try to justify ourselves that why do we need it. This is always a bad idea. Been there, done that, and remember it, don't do those mistakes. Don't try to cover your expenses by fancy words like investment or something that I need and I cannot do without. For the most part, you deep down know the things that you cannot do without, and everything else beyond that is a want but not a need. It is for the most part a luxury that you are after. So Ankur Warikoo has had a unique relationship with money, and he always used to think that whenever I get enough money, all the problems in my life will go away. And this is the kind of thought that many of us have in our head, that if we have enough money, then I would be happy forever. I would buy all the things that I always wish to buy, and that will make me happy forever. However, the sad reality is that it is never true. No amount of money can make you happy from inside. So some of the most valuable things in your life might not be even achievable by spending money, but rather by shaping your life in a certain way and spending time doing it. When we talk about relationships, we generally talk about relationships with other people, your life partner, or maybe your colleagues, your boss, or your relationship with non-living things like maybe money or success and all of those kinds. But the real relationship that we often forget to focus on is the one with ourselves. How much time do we really spend on ourselves? How much time do we spend on building our personality, our thoughts, our ideas, on improving the quality of our own life? So the take-home message is that if your quality of relationship with yourself is really good, then everything else will follow. We often spend time holding a grudge on someone. We are angry and then we want revenge, and we spend endless amount of time imagining various scenarios in which way we could have gotten our revenge and that would have satisfied us. However, holding grudge and plotting revenge and extracting revenge is really hard work. And so far we have discussed that we often ignore our own self. So if you have the opportunity of some free time, instead of spending it on holding a grudge, you would rather want to build yourself in such a way that you don't fall into such situations. And eventually I think revenge and grudge and negative things like that will slowly become unnecessary. They would be off your radar and your focus would be on yourself, so that you can cut the lane, move forward. And I think seeing your enemy in the rear view mirror would be the best revenge that you could possibly have got, isn't it? Understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. I was really surprised to hear it from a non-medical person, because in medical circles it is very important to know the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy means that you feel sorry for a person. For example, a patient comes knocking on my door late in the night, and if I was not a doctor, if I was generally trained by every other person the way we all are, then I would just feel sympathetic for him. But the empathy part will kick in from my medical training, and that would want me to understand the root cause of his problem. So empathy basically means trying to understand the cause of the problem and doing something to solve the problem, rather than just feeling sorry for the person with folded hands. The moment you realize this, you will find yourself to be an active participant in problem solving, rather than just being a passive person who feels sorry but cannot really do much. So stop feeling sorry for things and try to find out how you can contribute and make the world a better place, how you can decrease somebody's suffering. When you give what you desire the most, you don't desire it anymore. I found this line so profound that someday perhaps I would make a full video about it when I have enough insight on this idea. But we all have endless desires in our life, and nobody really told me to give them up. However, if you do give them up, who knows, you may be free of these desires and you would really focus on the process of living your life with fun and happiness and health. So the best thought I saved for the last, and it pretty much summarizes the whole book. Our inner world pretty much drives us in the outer world. The relationship which we have with ourselves, our physical health, our mental health, our understanding of wealth, our relationship with money, with people around us, gives us a personality, gives us a mindset, and this mindset reflects through our actions, our features, our expressions, and it drives us in the world, and it basically defines how we interact with the environment around us. So if you're somebody who is short-tempered, who is angry, who is frustrated, who basically doesn't understand what is going on inside his mind, will really struggle with getting a positive response. And an angry and irritable person will not have friends who really look forward to meeting him. He will not have colleagues or bosses who like him. He will not get those doors of opportunity opened for him if he doesn't really know the kind of effect which he has on other people. And that is mainly because he doesn't know exactly what is going on in his head. He is not in a good relationship with himself. Now compare that to a person who spends a lot of time thinking about himself, not in a narcissistic way but in a healthy way, so as to build himself, which drives him in a way that people like him. If you can do all of that, then more doors open for you and you move ahead in life. So everything boils down to you having a sense of understanding with your own self. One of my friends always used to say that you don't have to fall in a problem to know the solution. And that is the best thing about reading books. Like the video, let it rise on the algorithm, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what do you think. If there are more ideas, more topics that I can speak about, let me know in the comments down below. And with that, I will see you very soon in the next video.